Hello everyone and welcome to EduTap YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss 10 important MCQs from the subject of freedom movement and Indian Union. And as we know that this subject is a very important part of the syllabus of ESIC Deputy Director exam, and in the recruitment test, that is the first stage of this exam, we expect a lot of questions from this particular portion of the syllabus, that is the how Indian freedom struggle it progressed, what were the different facts related to the freedom struggle. Okay, so this lecture is a part of a series where we have already covered 20 such lectures. In each lecture I have discussed 10 or 15 MCQs or questions with you. So we have already discussed more than 200 questions, more than 200 topics on this particular subject, and I assume and I hope that a lot of questions in the exam itself will be from that list of 200 questions that we have already discussed. So again, if you have not watched those 20 videos, I would recommend that you go to the playlist and you watch those videos as well. Short videos, and only the questions and their solutions are being discussed in those videos. Okay, so now let us start with the today's session. First of all, question number 1 is in front of you. Who among the following is credited with introduction of local self-government in India? India's local self-government, it came obviously after independence. We came up with the constitutional amendments and we gave it the constitutional status. We established panchayats and we established the municipal corporations, etc. But even before independence, during the colonial times, especially in the urban areas, the concept of local self-government, the concepts of corporations, the concept of municipal councils were introduced. When was it introduced? By whom was it introduced? This is the question here. Option is Lord Mayo, Lord Ripon, Lord Lytton, and none of the above. All these three personalities here, they are viceroys of British India, and under one of them's tenure we got the local self-government in India. So who was the person who came up with this particular concept of local self-government? We also call this person as the father of local self-government in India. Okay, the correct answer for this question is option B, Lord Ripon. Lord Ripon introduced the local self-government in the year of 1882. He came up with this legislation where the Calcutta, this time known as Kolkata, Calcutta at that time, it was also granted with a municipal body to oversee the day-to-day administration of the Kolkata municipals. Okay, so Lord Ripon, he's obviously one of those viceroys who has been very favorable to India. He came up with various different initiatives which actually helped the Indian masses. Okay, so be very careful about this. Whenever you see any such initiative which is very progressive, which is very beneficial to the Indians, and Lord Ripon is in the options, most of the times Lord Ripon will be the answer for that question. Okay, next up, let us look at the question number 2. Nava Vidhan. Nava Vidhan is another name of which of the following reform movements of the 19th century India? 19th century India, there were a lot of reform movements, some on communal lines, some on social lines, and Nava Vidhan is one of those movements. It is another name for which of the following? Brahma Samaj, Adi Brahmo Samaj, Brahmo Samaj of India, or Sadharan Brahmo Samaj? Basically, Brahmo Samaj, as we know, it was started by Raja Ram Mohan Roy, but gradually, progressively, this Brahmo Samaj, it got bifurcated into various factions owing to differences on the terms of ideas, how the organization should work, what should be the focus of the organization. There were various differences amongst the eminent leaders of this organization, and that is why Brahmo Samaj, it got split into various other groups. One of such groups was also known as Nava Vidhan, and that group was the Brahmo Samaj of India, option number C. Right, so option number C is the correct answer. Brahmo Samaj of India, this was known as the Nava Vidhan. It focused more on the scientific temperament, it focused more on the revivalism of the religions, and that is why the correct answer for this is option C, Brahmo Samaj of India. Okay, question number 3. Question number 3 is about a very famous novel written by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. In which one of the following revolts was made famous in this novel? Bankim Chandra Chatterjee's Anand Mutt. So Anand Mutt is a very celebrated novel, obviously a masterpiece of the Bengali literature, but at the same time it also was very instrumental in instilling the feeling of nationalism, right? And Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, in this novel Anand Mutt, he comes up with this poem known as Vande Mataram, which is the national song of our country. So Vande Mataram, we all know Vande Mataram, we all know about Vande Mataram. Obviously many of us, we don't know the full lyrics, but we know the song Vande Mataram, and this song is taken from the novel Anand Mutt, written by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. But this novel, it was set in the backdrop of a very popular, very important rebellious movement. Which movement are we talking about here? That is the question here. Option is Bhil uprising, option B Rangpur and Dinajpur uprising, option C Bishnupur and Birbhum rebellion, and option D Sannyasi rebellion. So all of these rebellions, they are very popular, but this novel Anand Mutt, it was set in the backdrop of the eastern India, that is the Bengal region, right? And that is why it was also written in the Bengali language. So most probably we can assume that any revolt which was being focused on in this novel, that revolt would also have been happening in the eastern India or in the Bengal region. The Bhil uprising, it did not happen in the eastern India, in the Bengal region. Yes, the Najpur, Rangpur and Birbhum uprising, they happened in the eastern India. Bishnupur and Birbhum uprising, they were more around the Santhal Parganas regions, not actual Bengal region. The correct answer here will be option number D, Sannyasi rebellion. Sannyasi rebellion is the movement which originated in the Bengal region. The religious mystics known as sannyasis in common language, they were being their rights were being encroached upon by the Britishers. Their religious cultural practices, they were being banned or banished by the Britishers, and that is why they rose up in rebellion against the British authority. And this rebellion, it was focused in the Anand Mutt novel, and Vande Mataram, this song is also coming from this particular novel. Okay, next up is question number 4. Now question number 4 is about the Indian history post independence. So basically the question is asking what is the correct chronological order for the formation of following as the full states of Indian Union. We know that the map of India, the political map of India that we see today, this political map of India was not the same since independence. The many states, they have been formed after independence. Many states, they were split into many other states, or some states were merged together. This entire process of the formation of Indian states is also a very important part of the syllabus, and it can be tested in the examination itself. Okay, so this question is asking about 4 states: Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland and Haryana. All these states, they were initially not part of the Indian Union, but they not part of the Indian Union as a full-fledged state, but they were formed subsequently after independence. So what we want to know is the correct chronological order. The state which state which became the full state first has to come first, and the state which became full state later, it has to come later. So what is the correct answer for this question? Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland and Haryana. The correct answer, it has to be option number Bombay, option number B, Nagaland, then Haryana, then Sikkim, and then Arunachal Pradesh. Nagaland is 1962, it became a full-fledged state. Haryana in 1966, the portions of the erstwhile Pepsu state, the Punjab state, the regions, the Hindi-speaking regions, where they were bifurcated from that, they were separated, and they were organized into a state known as Haryana. Then came Sikkim. Sikkim was initially a foreign territory for India. Then it was turned into a protectorate. Then it wanted to become a full state and be part of the Indian Union, and then it was incorporated as an Indian Union, as an Indian full-fledged state in 1975. Then came Arunachal Pradesh. Arunachal Pradesh was initially, you can say, union territory, right? It was administered directly by the center, but then the Arunachal Pradesh, it was such a large state, and the people of Arunachal Pradesh, they had high aspirations, and that is why this state was converted into a full-fledged state with its own legislature and government. Okay, the correct answer is obviously then option number B. Next up, let us talk about question number 5. Who wrote the book The Story of Integration of Indian States? Options are B. N. Rao, option B. C. Rajagopalachari, option C. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and option D. V. P. Menon. The story of integration of Indian states, many of us will assume or guess, if we do not know the exact answer, that the author would have been Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, because he is most commonly associated with the integration of Indian states, the asking all the different princely states, different other provinces, convincing them or coercing them into joining our own union. But the correct answer for this question is not Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. The correct answer here is option number D, V.P. Menon. V.P. Menon was a bureaucrat, also a very stylized diplomat, and also a politician. And he also, worked in tandem with Sardarji, Vallabhbhai Patel ji, for integrating the various Indian states, especially the southern states. If we talk about the Travancore region, if we talk about the Mysore region, various states in the southern and peninsular part of the country, they were integrated into the Indian Union because of tandem, because of the harmony, because of the synergy that we had between Vallabhbhai Patel and V.P. Menon. Okay, next up is question number 6. The first Factory Act restricting the working hours for women and children and authorizing the local governments to make necessary rules was adopted during whose time? The first Factory Act, it was one of the first acts which focused on the welfare of people or the workers who worked in various mills and warehouses in India. And you can see, you can from the language of the question itself, that women, children, men, all of irrespective of the age, irrespective of the background, the people, they were working in the mills. There was no ban on child labor at that time. But yes, this first factory act, it restricted the working hours for women and children, so they are not overworked, so that they are not over exploited. Okay. And this act also authorized the local governments, the local provincial governments, to make rules for the benefit or the welfare of these workers. So this first factory act, it was enacted or adopted during the tenure of which of the following governor generals? Option A, Lord Lytton. Option B, Lord Bentinck. Option C, Lord Ripon. And option D, Lord Canning. And as I have told you earlier in this session, whenever you see any initiative that was for the benefit of Indians, it might be Lord Ripon if Lord Ripon is there in the options. Some legislations like abolition of sati was there, abolition of thuggy was there. These legislation, they came way before, they came in the initial days of the British colonialism. But the acts or the initiatives which were taken for the Indians benefit in the later parts, after 1857, after 1858, most of the times it was Lord Ripon who was the responsible governor general. Okay, so bear it in your mind. Next up is question number 7. Who among the following started the newspaper Shoma Prakash? Shoma Prakash was a very famous newspaper, talked about social reform, talked about the upliftment of women and also other sections of the society, and also nationalist tendencies were seen in the newspaper. This was started by option number A, Dayanand Saraswati, option B, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, option C, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, or option D, Surendranath Banerjee. The correct answer for this question has to be option number B, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. So this was a weekly newspaper, Som Prakash, and in 1858 it was started by Dwarkanath Vidyabhushan. Dwarkanath was a professor at Sanskrit College, but the original plan was of Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, because this Dwarkanath Vidyabhushan, he actually was the first editor, right? And the post of editor was given to him, but the idea for starting this up with this particular newspaper, it came up with Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. And he was also associated with the newspaper since long time, till 1891 he was there, associated with the newspaper till his death. Okay. Next up is question number 8. In the context of colonial India, Shahnawaz Khan, Premkumar Sehgal, and Gurbaksh Singh Dhillon are remembered as, you can see Shahnawaz Khan, Premkumar Sehgal, Gurbaksh Singh Dhillon. They are remembered as option A, leaders of the Swadeshi and boycott movement, or option B, members of the interim government in 1946, option C, members of the drafting committee in the Constituent Assembly, or option D, officers of the Indian National Army. So these three people, Shahnawaz Khan, Premkumar Sehgal, and Gurbaksh Singh Dhillon, they are associated with the Indian National Army. They were officers of the Indian National Army. Formerly, they were obviously officers of the British Indian Army, and these officers, they were then captured by the Axis powers. Japan captured them, and then they were liberated by Subhash Chandra Bose ji, and then they joined the Indian National Army, and they tried to emancipate India from the British rule. And the correct answer therefore is option number D. All these three officers, they were also charged with sedition. They were also charged with sedition by the British authorities, and they were also tried for that, but obviously because of the Indian pressure, they were not convicted for the offense. Question number 9. Two statements are given to us, and these two statements are about the various reform acts or Government of India acts that were passed by the British authorities. Statement number 1 says, the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms of 1919 recommended granting voting rights to all women above the age of 21. So basically, they were granting the voting rights to all women above the age of 21. This is the important part that you have to take care of. Statement number 2. The Government of India Act of 1935 gave women reserved seats in the legislature. That reserved seats were provided for women in the legislature. So some portion of the seats, of the total seats in the legislature, they were reserved for the women. This says option number 2, statement number 2, and it is talking about the 35 Act. And in the 1919 Act, we gave all the women the power of voting, the right to vote above the age of 21. So basically, it is a universal adult franchise above the age of 21. But this is not the case. Never in the history, till 1947, we were not given universal franchise. There were certain restrictions, there were certain conditions which you had to fulfill if you are to be eligible to vote. For example, you had to hold certain amount of property, you had to be certain amount of education qualification you had to have. Now, therefore, the correct answer for this question has to be option number B, because only the second statement is right here. The first statement is not absolutely correct. Yes, the women above the age of 21, they were given the rights to vote, but not all women. Not all women, only certain portions, only certain conditions, they had to be fulfilled by some women, the property, the name, the region that you have, but not all women. Okay, In 1935, yes, reserved seats were introduced in the legislatures for women. Now, this was a very, I would say, progressive step, because since independence till now, we do not have any reservation for women in legislature authorities of at the union level or at the provincial level. Yes, we have reservation for women in the local government, but yes, it is a need. There is a need that we extend this provision of reservations for women in state legislatures as well as in the parliament. Next up is the last question of the day, my friends, and this question is a very popular question, and I hope many of you know the answer to this question. Who among the following leaders presided over the Lahore Congress session of 1929, where resolution for Purna Swaraj was passed? This was the first time the Congress accepted this resolution that we wanted complete independence. We wanted britishers to we wanted nothing to do with the britishers, and they must leave the country in our own hands. Option A is Jawaharlal Nehru was the president of this session. Option B, Subhash Chandra Bose. Option C, Pattabi Sitaramaiah. And option D, Sardar Patel. So in 1929, on the banks of river Ravi, in the city of Lahore, we had this Congress session, and the resolution for complete independence was passed under the presidentship of the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru. Jawaharlal Nehru was the person who presided over the 1929 session. Bear it in your mind. Okay. So this is all for today's session. I have discussed with you 10 important questions, and if you liked this session, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and also like this video. If you joined the Telegram channel, now this is important, then you will be getting the PDFs of these sessions absolutely free of cost to download, and then you can use them for your revision also. Okay. So this is all from my side. Keep on learning, keep on growing. Jai Hind and Jai Bharat.